Snowflakes drifted down like tiny diamonds, covering the city in a soft white blanket. The streets glowed with Christmas lights strung across storefronts, flickering in reds and greens. Families hurried by, arms full of wrapped gifts, children laughing as they tugged at their parents' coats. The air was filled with the smell of roasted chestnuts and hot cocoa from nearby stands. It was a perfect Christmas Eve, perfect for almost everyone. Across the street, near an overflowing trash bin behind a bakery, a woman in a torn coat bent down. Her fingers trembled as she rummaged through bags, pushing aside soggy cardboard and crumpled paper. Her face was pale, hollow from hunger, her hair matted beneath a frayed scarf. She finally pulled out half a loaf of stale bread. She dusted it off carefully as if it were the finest delicacy before raising it to her lips. Not far away, Daniel Hayes, a well-dressed man in his 40s, walked hand in hand with his little daughter, Emma, who clutched a stuffed reindeer under her arm. Daniel was a successful businessman, a millionaire who owned several companies. Yet, despite the wealth, his heart still carried scars, the kind that money couldn't heal. He was raising Emma alone after losing his wife to cancer 3 years earlier. As they walked back from church, where they had just donated toys to children in need, Emma noticed the woman by the trash bin. She stopped in her tracks, tugging on her father's sleeve. "Daddy, look," she whispered, her small voice trembling. "She looks hungry." Daniel followed her gaze. His eyes fell on the woman, crouched in the snow, biting into the stale bread with trembling hands. Something inside him twisted. He saw not just a homeless stranger, but a soul broken by life. Daniel hesitated. He'd learned to be careful with strangers. He was a father first, and he didn't want to expose his daughter to danger. But Emma's pleading eyes didn't let him turn away. "Can we help her, Daddy?" she asked softly. "It's Christmas." The simplicity of her words pierced him. Children didn't see the world in terms of fear, status, or judgment. They just saw people who were hurting. He knelt down beside Emma, brushing snow off her coat. "Sweetheart, sometimes people don't want help," he said gently, "but maybe tonight is different." Gathering courage, he called out across the street, "Ma'am." His voice was steady but kind. "Are you okay?" The woman froze, startled. Slowly, she looked up, her eyes wide, as though she expected him to scold her for digging through the trash. Instead, she saw a man standing with a child, neither looking down on her but watching with genuine concern. Daniel held up the bag he was carrying. Inside were sandwiches, pastries, and a thermos of hot soup they'd picked up from a cafe. "Would you like some warm food?" he asked. The woman shook her head quickly, clutching the bread to her chest like a shield. "No, thank you, I don't want charity." Her voice cracked, but her pride fought to stand tall. Before Daniel could respond, Emma stepped forward. She reached into the bag and pulled out a sandwich wrapped in paper. Walking with all the courage her little heart could muster, she held it out with both hands. "Please," Emma said softly, "you don't have to eat from the trash. You can eat this." The woman's lips trembled. Her hands shook as she slowly took the sandwich, tears welling in her eyes. For a moment, she looked at the child as though she were seeing an angel. They sat down on a nearby bench, the snow crunching under their boots. The woman unwrapped the sandwich, inhaling the scent as though it were the most precious gift she'd ever received. She took a small bite, then looked down, ashamed. "I don't deserve this," she whispered. Daniel sat beside her. "Everyone deserves dignity," he said gently. After a long silence, the woman began to speak, her voice breaking with each word. "My name is Margaret," she said. "I used to be a nurse. I had a husband, a little apartment, a life that felt normal. But when my husband got sick, I spent everything trying to save him. I lost him. And then my job, the bills piled up. I had nowhere to go." Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought I could hold on just until I found something again, but weeks turned into months now. People don't even look at me anymore. To them, I'm invisible." Emma, with the innocence of a child, climbed onto the bench and gently hugged Margaret's arm. "You're not invisible to me," she said. Margaret let out a broken sob, her shoulders shaking. "You're too kind, little one. I'm sorry you have to see me like this." But Emma shook her head. "You don't have to be sorry. Tonight you're like family." Daniel felt his throat tighten. He had built companies, managed hundreds of employees, and signed deals worth millions. But sitting on that snowy bench, watching his daughter embrace a broken stranger, he realized he was learning more about humanity than he ever had in a boardroom. For a long moment, Daniel sat in silence, his breath fogging in the cold night air. He thought about the years he had spent grieving his wife, the lonely nights when he questioned how he'd keep going for Emma's sake. He knew what it meant to feel like life had been stripped away. Looking at Margaret, he saw more than a homeless woman. He saw a survivor, someone who had lost everything but still clung to dignity. Finally, he spoke. "Margaret, you don't belong out here in the cold. Tonight, you're coming with us." Her eyes widened. "No, I can't. I'll just be a burden." Daniel shook his head firmly. "You won't. My home has space, and my daughter clearly thinks you should join us." Emma clapped her hands in delight. "Yes, please say yes. We're having Christmas dinner, and you can sit by me." Margaret's lips quivered. She wanted to refuse. Her pride begged her to, but her heart ached for warmth, for belonging, for even just one night of being treated like a human again. With tears streaming down her cheeks, she finally whispered, "Okay." The Hayes home was glowing with Christmas cheer, twinkling lights on the tree, stockings by the fireplace, and the aroma of roasted turkey filling the air. Margaret stood hesitantly at the doorway, afraid to step inside. Daniel placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're welcome here, always." As they gathered around the table, Emma excitedly guided Margaret to a seat beside her. Laughter filled the room as they shared stories, ate until they were full. And for the first time in years, Margaret felt like she belonged somewhere. When the meal ended, Daniel poured her a cup of tea and said quietly, "You don't have to go back out there. I'll help you get back on your feet, a place to stay, some work, whatever you need." Margaret's eyes filled with fresh tears. "Why would you do this for me?" she whispered. Daniel smiled, glancing at his daughter. "Because once I was lost too, and someone showed me kindness when I needed it most. Tonight it's my turn." Margaret covered her face with her hands, sobbing, this time not from despair, but from hope. Emma hugged her tightly. "See, I told you, you're family now." And in that moment, surrounded by warmth and love, Margaret realized she had been given more than food or shelter. She had been given back her dignity, her hope, and a reason to believe again. On that cold Christmas Eve, what began as a simple act of kindness became a turning point for 3 lives. A little girl's innocent compassion reminded her father that wealth means nothing without humanity, and a woman who had lost everything discovered that hope can return when you least expect it. Daniel realized that being rich was never about the money. It was about how you chose to use it. Margaret discovered that dignity can be restored through love and acceptance, and little Emma proved that sometimes the smallest voices carry the greatest truths. That night wasn't just about sharing food or shelter, it was about sharing humanity. And as they sat together, no one felt rich, poor, or broken. They simply felt like family. The story leaves us with one message: the true spirit of Christmas, and of life itself, is not found in what we receive, but in what we give. Because sometimes the greatest miracles are born from simple acts of kindness.